Hello and welcome back to HMS Odyssey Presents. We're back in it with Meg Zeek. Last week we went over some of the numbers, the personality and design. This week we're right back in it. So I hope you enjoy. If you do, hit the like, drop a comment, and hit subscribe. Thank you.
Okay, so moving right along then.
Yeah.
So the next two, so it's the north node and the south node. So now you can kind of probably understand how they connect. Okay. So I'll do these two together and then the personality side. So the north node, the one facing down, is what you're shifting away from in life. And then the south, yes. And then the south node is what you're shifting toward, or sorry, vice versa.
North, south.
Yes.
So right. shifting away from is north?
Shifting toward is north.
Okay. And shifting away is south. Okay.
Yes. And so for you, and yeah, we'll go ahead and do it on the personality side. So what you're shifting toward are things like love of spirit, healing, inner healing, and healing others, right? And then the south node of what you're shifting away from is like determination, like sometimes, and that might even be more like stubbornness or being really strict about the trajectory of a certain path. So you may have already hit that, and this is what I always say about what you're shifting away from. You may have already hit that. It may be that that's coming later. So it's hard to say, like, it sometimes is hard to put like a story to it or a thought to it because you're not sure where you're at in that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. To me, it feels like my entire life, we've talked about it plenty, but we have kind of information that we've grown up with, these traditions, these whatever it is, so every upbringing, if you're a very Christian person or a Catholic person or a Jew or whatever, you're raised a certain way and you kind of think certain, I feel like there's thought paths of travel. And when you're talking about this, it's kind of like, do I have to follow this exactly? Like, can I deviate? And that's kind of what I got out of that.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and some people, they'll hear it and they're like, I don't feel like anything in my life aligns with that. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's something that's going to happen later. Just, take what resonates. Now on your spirit side, notice that you have the same numbers. So you have the same meanings there as well.
Okay. So the 0.6 and 0.6, those are the only differences.
The 25, right. So the number before the decimal is what we're going over right now.
Okay.
The one afterwards, that's your channel.
Okay.
So yeah, whenever they're the same, I just call them married. Like your spirit and your body and your human are on the same page there.
So it means the exact same thing.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. Yeah. So those ones are nice and easy.
Yeah, easy day.
Yeah. So the next one on your personality, the 50, is your Mercury. And this is another good one for business, like what you're here to communicate. And I have a question before I tell you the meaning of this one.
Okay.
Do you or have you ever enjoyed cooking? I know, really random.
No, it's not.
No?
I've been cooking since I was like 12. I almost went to culinary school. I got accepted like 4 or 5 culinary schools, but I decided that I did not want to cook for other people. It doesn't mean as much to me as cooking for people that I love or care about. So yeah, cooking has been a massive part of my life.
So thinking of cooking, the part of cooking that you maybe like that you really enjoy talking about. So this is something that you're here to communicate, and it's not that it has to be cooking. Cooking is kind of the example of almost like values, right? So you just told me that you enjoyed cooking for people that you love more. So
Mm-hmm.
the value of that would be family, love, connection. Even, following a step-by-step process could be part of it too, of creating rules or laws. And it's so silly that cooking comes up here. Like, honestly, you'll even find it like in research, right? So it's just interesting how these all can come together. Where, like, I'm just trying to think, I'm not as much of a cook, but like a rule for a quarter teaspoon of salt is like a pinch, right? So kind of coming up with your own rules and values to get a finished product.
So is that kind of the definition?
Yeah.
So creating my own rules and values to come up with the finished product.
Yeah. And so communicating that.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of like some funky pieces there together.
Yeah. No. It makes sense when I put it to a recipe. So like I learned how to make homemade pasta sauce, and I've altered the recipe to my liking.
There you go.
And now I make a homemade vodka sauce that is, it's so good. Dorothy loves it.
You're making me want to cook tonight now.
Sorry.
I don't want to.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I don't even mention the cooking piece to people. I'm like, I know that you don't cook, so I'm not even, you get to take something else from this.
Yeah,
really interesting.
I'll show you some of my pictures later.
Like kind of like super random with like these deep meanings and cooking.
It all works.
All right, so on your spirit side, it is about influence. Again, visionary shows up, and leadership coming up again. So communicating your vision. And again, I would encourage you to consider, like, what is your world vision, right? And then the leadership aspect of that. So that's a little deeper one.
No, yeah,
that spirit side, man.
Yeah. No, it's funny because it's kind of the situation that I'm in right now. It's like I've designed my own course, and like I want to always make it better, but it's like, how can I communicate what it is and what its purpose is? And because I put a lot of thought into it. I layered everything it stacks upon each other, step after step after step, and everything keeps applying like a big spiral if you really think about it. And if you went through my course, you would see it.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's very, I'd say that's pretty spot on.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm going to try and connect them if you need me to. No, you got it. Okay.
I got it.
All right. Your next little man there is Venus. And I say this is also important on a business aspect, kind of like your core values as a business, right? So some of your personal values are empowerment, like empowering others, and bringing people together, which again, that makes me think of cooking, actually, right?
Very true.
For you, maybe that means like, you have a Facebook group, right?
I do.
So you have your own Facebook group, maybe, creating group courses or even group events, different things, bringing people together allows you, like, that could be part of your business values, right?
Yep.
Which actually, I mean, it kind of is, because that's what you're doing on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny because that's what I'm trying to toy with when in my mind is doing group sessions within my course.
There you go.
Yeah. Spot on.
Love it. So on the spirit side, you again have leadership.
Okay.
Yep. And direction. So some of those are kind of broad, where you get to decide, what do I value there? You know, what's the real value?
Okay, so this is leadership slash what? What type of leadership?
I said so service, like serving others.
Oh, okay, service leadership. Okay. And that's funny. Isn't Venus a representative of my feminine side as well?
Not necessarily in human design.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Your
No, that's good.
Your arrows there at the top,
Yep.
which we'll go over, those have a more feminine, masculine meaning in human design.
Okay.
All right. So after Venus, you have Mars, which are like qualities, things that you are passionate about. And I always remind people that when we're really passionate about something, it can also sometimes irk people. So, and especially on the business side, right? Like, what am I really passionate about that other people might take as aggressive or annoying? And just, so how can I communicate those better? And even like, if I layered a little deeper than that, if I think that it's going to trigger someone, then what part of it is triggering me? So take all of that in and now we'll talk about Mars.
Is there any okay. You're finishing side.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I'm setting you up for Mars.
Okay.
Yeah,
is there a way you can simplify that?
Yeah, I could take how about I try to take you through the process after this and see it once I give you your meanings.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So things that you're passionate about are intuition, survival, which you're a Marine, right?
I am.
And knowing the right timing. So those are like all really interesting. So think about like what pops up there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be there, right? So on the other side, for spirit, you have problem solving as something that you're very passionate about, and finding possibilities for experiments. We already knew that. So things that you're passionate about are kind of in that realm. And actually, the example that you gave earlier of you jumping through, like people weren't listening to you, right?
Yeah.
And you were experimenting and you were being a problem solver and you just went for it and you kind of annoyed some people, right?
I did, absolutely.
The teacher, at least.
A couple of the students kind of got a little irked that.
Right. So some things that you're more passionate about are going to rub people the wrong way. And we also talked about this, just talking about the 3-5, right? Yeah. Where you're passionate, you're gonna do what feels right for you, which is experimenting, and that can again rub people the wrong way. So doesn't necessarily. So the second part of that is really more about like creating your message as a business owner. And so let's say that your message, and I'm going to use this example because we have it and we've talked about it. Let's say that your message was find creative solutions, and your story was, about you getting through that hole.
Yeah.
And the way that you tell the story, how you triggered some people in that room. And when you put that message out there, you're also thinking about that. About the trigger, right? Mm-hmm. Then your message could trigger people that are if it's a post on Facebook or a commercial, a marketing tool.
Sure.
Does that make
sense?
Yeah,
no, I mean, yeah, absolutely. But, it's funny. Sometimes I feel like I knew people would get angry that I would jump through the hoop, whatever, but it's pushing the boundaries and making people think outside the realm of we have to do this way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because it's, I learned BANK. So BANK is an acronym. We have blueprints,
Right.
knowledge, action, nurture. And it's funny because I am a knowledge type, and knowledge is my strongest suit. And when it pertains to rules, we say the knowledge type challenges the rules.
Ah, yes.
And I always like to challenge the rules.
Haha. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, if you think about any of that, you think back when they created the light bulb and they, made cars for the first time and planes, when the Wright brothers took off, like you're gonna piss people off, right?
Yes.
So it's like you get to a point where it's like you can make the masses happy or you can piss off 5 people. Like, to me,
Right.
it's kind of a no-brainer.
And so for you, it's like you have the right mindset about it. Now,
Yeah. Very cool.
if you were someone else, right? Then you might be worried about who you were gonna piss off. And then using that like triggered emotion, that's what's gonna trigger other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, it doesn't sound like you necessarily even need that information.
Yeah.
And it's just information that I go over with
I like it.
that piece of Mars.
I appreciate it because I feel like it affected me a lot more when I was younger, and when I look back, it makes more sense than it does now. So maybe that was just, you kind of said something. So this is my birth chart. You get to a point where some of these things are very applicable to you, and then there's a point where you almost grow out of some of them.
Yeah.
So like that one, I feel like was way more applicable when I was younger than it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, so right timing, like knowing the right timing is also something that you're passionate about. And that reminds me of our conversation with frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So kind of wrap around there too. So it can go into business and it doesn't always. I just like to make sure to mention that little tidbit to, how people are on social media, and when they post something that they're really passionate about and then somebody else is passionate but in the opposite direction, and
sure.
Business owners don't need to deal with any of that. Hopefully they know that, but still go over it. Okay, so Jupiter is your little circle. Yep, there we go. And for you, this is like an area, and for everybody, this is an area of expansion. Somewhere where when you do these things, you can expand your soul, or maybe an area where broadening your perspective is a good idea too. So this is about, and this is funny because you said this is about finishing things. You said the only failure is a quitter.
Yeah.
Yep. So finishing things, completing cycles. That's on your human side. And then in your spirit side, you have that it's all about transformation, change. So, and that again goes with your overall profile, right?
Okay.
So in that,
I'm trying to find some.
Those two are a little conflicting, right? Finish things and change.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, and I'll say this, especially with old school human design, they'll stay focused in the personality section. And this is why I say, this is embodiment, where you have these qualities and you have those qualities, and how can you see them flowing together?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because I tend to like buy something that I really want, and then I'll wait, and then I'll use it or do it, and then I come almost close to completion, and then I stop, and then I have to come back to it to complete. So it's like, it makes sense, but it's like tricky making sense.
Mm,
Does that make
I
sense?
might, I might have something for you there.
Cool.
Another meaning there for you. And you said this kind of earlier, where when you were younger, you would get something and you'd hang on to it till it was falling apart. What was your financial life like as a kid, like that you're aware of, right? Because we're only aware of as much as
Sure.
we
Yeah.
can be.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that we were. I think we were a happy medium. I mean, we didn't have a lot of extras. We didn't, I didn't get every toy that I wanted. I did, like there were certain points. I spent a lot of time outside. It was always very much like go outside and do something. So skateboarding, riding my bike, playing in the creek, um, lots of things outside. And then when we would go to the store or something, I'd be like, "Can I have this?" It'd be met with questions. So like, how much are you really going to use this?
Okay.
Like, if I see this in a drawer in a month, like I'm going to be upset. So how do you really want it? So like, and that has even translated into today where I'll like be in a store and I'll be looking at something and I'll be like, oh yeah, I want this. And I'll put it in my cart. And then I'll think about it a little later as I'm doing whatever else. And then I'll think about it a little later right before checkout and be like, you know what? Nah. So it's like I'll instantaneously see it and be like, oh my God, instant gratification. And I'll put it in my cart. And over the next, 20, 30 minutes in the store, I can actually talk myself out of it. Do I really need it? Do I really need it right now? Is this something that I'm going to use, 3 times and be done with it? Or can I use this in the long term?
Right. So
So I
you're
have like this
getting
whole
all
like
in your
list
mind
of,
about it,
yeah, yeah.
which is not, a negative thing by any means, right?
No, I mean, I've probably talked myself out of a lot of stupid stuff that I wouldn't even know. You know what I mean?
Huh. Well, okay. So
So,
what I was looking for, we're going to go over all of your channels. I only go over your defined channels. These hanging, we're kind of side noting right now. Your hanging ones. So these are the lines that are going through your body graph that are red and black.
right.
So your self center, your G center,
Yeah.
you have all that definition in there. That's a lot about money. Or I shouldn't say it's all about money. There's a couple channels in there that can be specifically related to money.
Okay.
And you have some that are hanging where they're not red or black all the way through.
Okay.
So I was looking for if that correlated with anything that you were saying, and not really so much, but you do have I think part of the money channel, which is your 25.
Okay.
And just know that because we're not going to go over those partial ones, just know that it creates the ability to make a lot of money. And this is kind of off from what you were saying, which is, I want you to know what I was doing still.
Yeah.
And then that white part, you would almost need somebody else to finish off that channel. No, I'm not saying that that's what has to happen in order for you to make a lot of money.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that channel is completed, that energy is completed by another person. And I would have to look at Dorothy's chart to see if she completes that, or you could, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, I was looking to see if anything about your money channels correlated with what you were saying. But as I was listening, because I can multitask, as I was listening, it's more about your mind
Yeah.
and asking yourself if you really need something. So again, that's with your open mind. You've learned, you've been conditioned in some way to say, hey, do I really need that? So something that I would suggest for you, just on a money mindset note, would be next time that you almost grab something off of the shelf or almost hit the buy now button, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you may have heard this before. This is what I like to ask myself is, does this align with my goals?
Yeah.
And, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And try to just try to go with your gut response there, right?
Yeah, I'd honestly say that kind of when I say, am I going to use this, whatever, I do think of that in terms. So, like, especially when I looked at something for my business, like Zoom. I mean, like getting the paid version of Zoom where I have all these upgraded tools, et cetera, et cetera. I was thinking about it. Like, what is my goal? What is my overall goal? My goal is to do all these interviews and get this information out to other people so they can watch this. And ultimately, hopefully you get tons of people who see this video and they're like, oh my God, this is incredible, because this reading is incredible. And I hope that they sign up for you. So that in turn, just me saying yes, committing to the Zoom, and then me committing to the Zoom means that I'm going to use it. So if I commit to a purchase like this, I make sure that I'm going to use it. I'm not a guy who's just going to be like, oh, look, I bought a book. I'll read that in a year or 3.
Remember how you're passionate about survival?
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel kind of like a survival skill? If I'm going to get this, I better use it.
For sure.
That kind of sounds like a survival thing to me.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I do have some frivolous purchases.
I was like, I wish I would have done your hanging channels now, but they're also just, I think, a little bit over the top confusing.
Yeah.
When it's just a part of the channel. So they're fun to look at though when you pull like a partner's channel or a partner's body graph and you look together and you say, oh, we complete each other here, or a business partner, anything like that. Like looking kind of where you complete each other and kind of, what are some things that we can be really good at together.
Yeah.